linguistics. It's singular noun and it means science of language. In other words, we can also say scientific study of language. For example, I have great interest in the subject of linguistics. Linguistics is a complicated subject. What is to be noted is that the CS at the end is very important. We should always pronounce it as linguistics if you refer it as the name of a subject, not linguistic. That is a different grammatical category. We have the word linguistic. When you say linguistic, it refers to as an adjective without S. So delete S. For example, linguistic concepts are essential to understand a language. So look at the difference between the sound S at the end. When you add sound S, linguistics, it's singular noun. When you remove the sound S, it is adjective of linguistics. That is to say linguistic. Many students make a mistake in pronouncing this word. We have another word, linguist. It's noun, but it refers to a person who studies linguistics. Psycholinguistics. The word psycholinguistics is divided into two major branches, two major parts, two major segments, psycho and linguistics. Psycho is related to psychology. It refers to psychology. And what is psychology? It is the scientific study of human mind. How you think, what goes on in your mind, your perception about the world. But it's not only the study of human mind, but also the study of human behavior. Because what you think affects your behavior. How you think shapes your behavior. So psychologically, basically, is the study of human mind and behavior. Okay, so now we go on to the term linguistics. It is related to language, talks about language, and it is the scientific study of language, analytical study of language, how language is learned, how language is acquired, what are the systems of language, what are the elements of language, components of language. All those things are part of the study of linguistics. And together, when we combine the two words, psycho and linguistics, it becomes another branch of discipline that is known as psycholinguistics. So let's talk about psycholinguistics. What is this? And the definition of psycholinguistics is a branch of a study which combines the disciplines of psychology and linguistics. This is the area of knowledge in which we see the beautiful amalgamation of the knowledge of psychology and linguistics. We have some more ideas about this concept. It explores the relationship between the human mind and language. So, human mind is the universe. It helps us form opinion. It helps us think about so many things around us. So, where does the language exist? It exists in the human mind. So, there is a deep relationship between human mind and language. We have some more ideas about it. Regards language as a product of human mind, not a product of society. Since human mind is our universe and the language exists in our mind, it does not exist according to psycholinguistics in the society. First, it originates in our mind. It is created in our mind. Perception is built in our mind. So mind is a universe. Mind is the place where language exists. You cannot go to a shop and ask, give me 1 kg of language or 5 kg of language. Language does not exist in the shop. It's not sold in the shop. So where does it actually exist? It exists in the mind. That is why, point of view of psycholinguistics, it is a product of human mind. Language is the creation of human mind. Language is a consequence of human thinking. Language is the result of human thinking process. Therefore, it is a product of human mind. It is not a product of society. Psycholinguistics negates that society has any major effect on learning a language. And when I say language is not a product of society, that is to say, it is a part of sociolinguistics. In contrast, sociolinguistics asserts it is a product of human social relationships. We have some more ideas. It believes that linguistic competence is determined by the way human mind works. How we think affects the way we speak. How our mind works influences the way we express our ideas to the world. So linguistic competence is completely decided by the way our mind thinks, by the way we perceive the world, by the way we conceptualize things. So therefore, psycholinguistics has a different angle to look at language, to study language. We continue with some more ideas about psycholinguistics. We have 5 major areas of psycholinguistics. This will help you understand why we say language is a product of human mind. The first one is language processing. The second one is language storage. The third one is language comprehension. The fourth one is language brain. And the fifth one is language acquisition. Let's talk about each one of them in brief. Language processing. What is this? Language processing itself suggests that how language is processed in the mind. What exactly goes on when we listen, when we speak, when we read, and when we write. Then we have language storage. That is to say, how is language stored in our mind? How is it saved in our memory? How does we retrieve whenever we want it? How we keep the information safe in the mind? That is about language storage. And then we have language comprehension. How is meaning constructed? How is meaning derived? How do we form the opinions? How are concepts formed? This is the study of language comprehension. Then we have language brain. That is to say, language and brain. In other words, we can say neurolinguistics. Connection, deep relationship between the language and the brain. Where does brain store linguistic and semantic concepts? Whatever we receive, where do they go? How does brain save all such information about linguistic and semantic concepts? And the last one is language acquisition. That is to say, how do infants come to acquire first language? Infants, when they grow up and reach the age of 6 months and 7 months, they start speaking the language without having wider social connections. How do they speak? What factors contribute? So these are some of the major areas of psycholinguistics. I hope you have understood the major concept of what psycholinguistics is all about. What is neurolinguistics? Neurolinguistics, the term is divided into two segments, neuro and linguistics. The first one is neuro, and it refers to brain. It is related to brain. It is linked to brain. It is also related to nerve and nervous system. So when we talk about brain, we talk about nerve and nervous system, because without which the brain cannot function. And the area of this is known as neuroscience. And what is neuroscience? The scientific study of the nervous system, brain, and the spinal cord, their functions and disorders, is known as neuroscience. Now we have the word linguistics, and as you know, it is related to language, and the scientific study of language is known as linguistics. That is how neurolinguistics is combined with the help of these two different disciplines, brain and language. Now together we have the word neurolinguistics. Let's explain further about this concept. It is relatively a new branch of linguistics. Actually, neurolinguistics earlier started in the field of psychology, and from psychology we have imported it into the field of linguistics. Anyway, it's a relatively a new branch of linguistics. Nothing more to explain. It's very much clear. It studies how brain works to process language system, how brain functions in processing the language system. It examines the relationship between brain mechanisms and language, leading to insights into how language is processed. That is to say, we are talking about language processing. How language is acquired. That means it refers to language acquisition. And how language is impaired. It refers to language impairment, known as aphasia. Aphasia is a branch of neurolinguistics in which we study the disorder of language. Something goes wrong in the brain, or brain is damaged, one may suffer from language disorder. This area of a study is known as aphasia. That's why we call it language impairment. So neurolinguistics look at these three different aspects of language: language processing, language acquisition, and language impairment. They are very important in the field of neurolinguistics. Now we continue our discussion. In simple terms, neurolinguistics explores how our brain handles different aspects of language. And what are the different aspects of language? We have listening, speaking, reading, and writing. One more thing here I would like to add is that the neuroscience especially is a very neutral term. It is not influenced by theories of language. Brain and the mechanism of brain and how it works is a pure science. It is not to be influenced by any theory of language. It works independently, and how it functions, how it observes the system of language in the brain, how it processes, how it delivers, all works independently without the influence of any outside field of study. It's a pure science like. Okay, now let's test your knowledge till the point I have expressed my views regarding neurolinguistics. The first one is neurolinguistics is the study of sentence structure and word meanings without any relation to brain. Is it true or false? Please think about it, and the answer is false. We go on to the next question. Neurolinguistics is an interdisciplinary field that examines the relationship between brain mechanisms and language. Think about this question, whether it's true or false, and it's of course true. Go to the question number 3. Neurolinguistics identifies the neural basis of language disorders. Think about it. And of course, the answer is here, and that's true. Now we have the next question. Neurolinguistics focuses on body language and non-verbal communication. Is it true or false? Of course, it's false. And the last one is neurolinguistics is a branch of psychology that deals with how people judge different dialects of a language. Is it true or false? And of course, it's false. So these are some of the ideas about what is neurolinguistics. Dyslexia. Meaning of dyslexia. It is a learning disorder, that is to say, a reading disability. A person is unable to read properly, and it is a branch of psycholinguistics. It involves difficulty reading due to problems in identifying speech sounds, relating to letters and words. That is to say, a child suffering from dyslexia may have problems in understanding letters and words properly, in recognizing letters and words properly. That is to say, in other words, decoding information. It is difficult for them to form meaning out of a group of letters, which shapes into words. We continue our discussion. Symptoms of dyslexia. Though it is difficult to recognize before your child enters a school, yet some early clues may indicate a problem. And what could be they? Late talking. If a child who starts talking late, it could be one of the symptoms of dyslexia. Learning new words slowly. Sometimes there are some children, they learn words very slowly. This could be another sign of a child likely to suffer from dyslexia. Problems forming words correctly. They are not able to figure out what the words mean about. And problems naming letters, numbers, and colors. And the last one is learning means difficulty learning nursery rhymes or playing rhyming games. These are some of the symptoms that may cause a child suffer from dyslexia. So one has to be careful about. We continue our discussion. We have now causes of dyslexia. Dyslexia results from individual differences in the parts of the brain that enable reading. So different children will have different ways in which the brain function and disable them from reading something properly. It tends to run in families. Sometimes dyslexia may be genetic, that is to say, dyslexia appears to be linked to certain genes that affect how the brain processes reading and language. That's why we call it tends to run in families. We continue our discussion. Now we have complications of dyslexia. Dyslexia can lead to several problems such as trouble learning. Of course, when we say learning anything in life. Social adjustment. A child who suffers from dyslexia cannot read properly, cannot write properly, cannot recognize letters and words. Naturally, he or she will have problems in social adjustment. He may not be as sharp as other peers of children in the society. Problems as adults, and as they grow with dyslexia, so naturally this will result into a big problem as adults, as independent individual members of the society. They cannot adjust in the way normal children adjust and have the superior quality of intelligence. We continue our discussion. That is treatment of dyslexia, how to deal with children suffering from dyslexia. Early assessment and intervention result in the best outcome. So if you come to know that why a child is learning slowly, so this early assessment, early recognition of this problem and intervention, your involvement, your solution to the problem might be a great help to the children. Tutoring or a specialized education program. If you give a specialized way of training to the child suffering from dyslexia, this can also be a great help to the children. Emotional support. You have not to be angry. You have not to be upset and distressed if a child suffers from dyslexia. Rather, you have to be emotionally strong and you need to give emotional support to the child. In other words, we can say encouragement in making mistakes while learning. You must encourage children suffering from dyslexia, even though they make mistakes regularly. At least they are making mistakes, and we make mistakes only when we are learning. So the mistakes in learning should be taken as a sign of progression in learning activities, and being patient with them. No quick result. So when you deal with the child suffering from dyslexia, we have to be patient. We should not be expecting quick result and outcome. That is not good, and that will unnecessarily put extra burden and pressure upon the child. Now let's talk about a review of lesson, what we have discussed so far. So dyslexia is a learning disorder, learning disability, problem in learning, particularly reading and also writing, of course, because if you cannot recognize letters and words, so if you cannot read, naturally you cannot write as well. Problems in decoding information. Since you are facing problems in recognizing letters and words, you are not able to figure out what do they mean, so it would be very difficult to decode information. Linked to certain genes that affect how the brain processes reading. So dyslexia may be hereditary as well. It poses a challenge to social adjustment. So a child suffering from dyslexia and growing up as an adult will pose a problem of social adjustment in the society. He will not be as intelligent, as active, as sharp as his peer groups, as like those of his friends. Tutoring or a specialized education program can help to children with dyslexia. What is aphasia? Aphasia, it is a language disorder. That is, there is some problem in the way language should be executed. Sometimes we also call it language impairment. That is, language is damaged in the brain. The power of language is affected, impaired, destroyed, ruined. A person is unable to communicate in a better way. In fact, aphasia is caused by damage in a specific area of the brain that affects language expression, that is how to speak, how to write, and language comprehension, that is to say, how to receive the information, how to understand, how to comprehend, and so on. We have some more ideas. Aphasia leaves a person unable to communicate effectively with others. Now we have causes of aphasia. Aphasia is caused by damage to the language dominant side of the brain, usually the left side, and may be brought on by a stroke, as you can see in the picture, by brain injury, as you can see in the picture, by brain tumor, as you can see in the picture, by brain infection, you can see this in the picture, and dementia, you can also notice it in the picture. These are some of the most important causes of aphasia. We continue our discussion. Let's review aphasia. It is a language disorder. We also call it language impairment. It is caused by damage in a specific area of the brain that controls language expression and comprehension. Aphasia leaves a person unable to communicate effectively with others. Meaning of dementia. Dementia is the loss of cognitive functioning. The power of understanding, the power of comprehension is affected, and it affects our thinking, remembering, and reasoning. We continue our discussion. Effect of dementia. As a result, dementia may affect a person's daily life activities, cannot control his or her emotions, and it's more common as people grow older. Now we have symptoms of dementia. One could have trouble in memory loss and poor judgment, difficulty speaking, understanding, and expressing thoughts, losing balance, and problems with movement. Causes of dementia. Dementia is the result of changes in certain brain regions that cause neurons, nerve cells, and their connections to stop working properly. For a small number of people, rare genetic variants that cause dementia have also been identified. Types of dementia. The first one is Alzheimer's disease. It's most common dementia diagnosis among older adults. Frontotemporal dementia. It is associated with abnormal amounts of the proteins in the brain. Lewy body dementia. It is also caused by abnormal deposits of the protein alpha-synuclein called Lewy bodies. And the last one is vascular dementia. It is caused by conditions that damage blood vessels in the brain or interrupt the flow of blood and oxygen to the brain. Let's review the lesson. Dementia is the loss of cognitive functioning. Dementia may affect a person's daily life activities. The next point is dementia results in memory loss and poor judgment. Dementia causes nerve cells to stop working properly. At the end, I would like to say that dementia is a branch of a study in the field of neurolinguistics instead of psycholinguistics. Hope you understand the concept. Thank you and goodbye.